Okay, so I'm going to place a wall here. If my computer will cooperate. I didn't, or did I? All right, just a second. Let me. Yeah, I didn't. All right. Somebody's gotta. Is working on that man. Sorry. All right. All right. So we have exterior. Well. All right. Let me. Sorry. Okay, so what we've got here is I have outside here and I have inside here, right? And so this is the outside, this is the inside, the bricks on the outside. And the first one is A, is wall center line. So the wall center line is actually this right smack in the middle of the wall. That's from beginning this edge to this edge is the wall center line. And we can draw I'm trying to think about how to draw a line here in the center line. Revit will tell you that that's the wall center line right there. All right, and that's the usual default, right? When you're placing something and you just pick a wall, the first thing it does is it places in the wall center line. And so that one is going to be A, and that's this one over here. All right. Now the little nuance, it's not a trick. I wouldn't call it a trick, but the little nuance that I did here is I drew a center line to give you a hint. That's actually what I was trying to do, is give you a hint. So I expected the A to be on this side. So if you got a half, it's because you got them flipped. And it just happens that this center line is very close to this answer right here. We'll talk about it in a second. But A is the one on the left, the upper one on the left. In fact, both the center lines are on the left. Or on the right. What's that? Well, maybe not necessarily. That's why I call it a nuance. But to give you what I thought was a more clear explanation of this, I use this line center line. Everybody know what a center line looks like? It's a nomenclature we use when we're drafting, not just in architecture, but in most drafting. It's a long line with a dash, with a small dot, and another line. That's a center line. So if you ever see that again, that means that's a center line. Okay, so that's the convention for a center line. So that's A. B is exterior finish, and that's this one up here, because that's the outside. I could have said exterior here too. And so B is here. C is exterior core, so that's going to be toward the outside. That's going to be this one right here, and that's going to be just the plain old dash line. All right, and then interior finish, that's going to be D. That's this one down here. E is the center line of the core. That's the other center line, and that's E right here. Right? Everybody understand that now? Four. Yeah, the second bubble here is C on this side. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, this first bubble is this bubble here on the right is going to be exterior finish. That's B. This one down here is A. This one down here is the center line of the core, and that's going to be E. Right? I cover all of them. D, interior finish, is this one. D. All right, so those are your location lines. Number 2. Which statement describes the term location line? All right. It is a instant parameter. Remember I talked about instant parameters and type parameters? Yes? All right, so that would be if I pick this wall, the very first parameter is wall center line. All of these parameters here are properties. I'll use the word parameters, properties interchangeably. Are called instant parameters. Why? Because if I were to draw another wall, I need to go to bed. Let's see, pull that there. It has a different set. Even though these walls are the same type of wall, they have different instant parameters. So I could change this one to second floor, for instance. It's going to disappear now. All right. So these two walls have different instant parameters, and so the very first box you see here in the properties palette, these are instant parameters. So I push this button right here, and these are type parameters. So the term instant parameter and constraint is accurate, so that's true. And notice I asked which statement describes the term. Okay. All right. So a controlling element or justification of lines of a wall assembly. Well, that is a line or controlling element in the wall. So that's true as well. Number C rather is a wall. It's a selection on the wall options bar. So when I was going to create the wall, one of the options here is location line. See that? So that's true. And you also know that we can also use it as a dimensioning preference. So if we're going to dimension this, we could actually dimension from a particular location line. So for instance, that's actually an option here. I could say wall face, and I could dimension from the wall face to another wall face, or actually to a center line, and I could use that as a controlling element or part of dimensioning. So the actual true answer to this is E, all of the above. Okay, the next one is an example of a wall instant parameter. I just talked about instant parameters. So if I look at my wall here, it could either be a location line, that's not here. The next thing is a base constraint, and that is actually here. That's A. So the answer to number 3 is A. Questions? Everybody good? All right. An example of actually it should be A. You correct my English. a wall instant parameter, right? So these are instant parameters. So I'm just asking an example, and of all the list here, the base constraint is and base constraint offset. That's this one, next one. These are both instant parameters. Structure is a type parameter. So when I punch that, and you look here, this says structure, that's type parameter. Wall function is that's this right here, that's also a type parameter. Filter selection, that has nothing to do with anything as it relates to parameters. And then none of the above, of course, it actually is A, so that's why it is A. Okay? I'm gonna go on to the next one because I want to really get into the answer your questions about the roof. So, which view property, also accessible on the view control bar, allows the user to see wall layers in a plan or section view? And we've talked about this when we were doing the walking wall exercise and the other exercises. When this is set on coarse, you don't see the layers, but when you set it on fine or some other layer, you can see the layers. And that happens here in the plan view and the section view. And so that is B, which is the detail level. All right. The only other thing that's on the view control bar that's listed there is the model graphic styles, which I don't think they call it that anymore. Actually, they call it visual styles now, but it used to be called model graphic style. So it's not even might not even recognize it as that what they're talking about. So the answer to 4 is B. Prior to creating a new or modifying a wall type, material, or element type, a Revit user should duplicate and rename the wall or element. Right? So remember when we edit the walls, we created new types of walls. We go edit, we go duplicate, and that's so we don't spoil the original copy. And of course, the Pee Wee Herman principle applies. If I've got all these walls and I actually want to change all the walls of this type, I don't duplicate it. I just basically edit the wall, and then those walls will change automatically. Or globally. It'll change globally. All right? So that's the answer to number 5 is D. The answer to number 6, 6 is kind of tricky, so I gave half points for it. Is constraints are represented by, like when I draw a wall here, for example, and I draw it out here. You see it. You saw the padlock. Bummer. See the padlock and the dashed green line? That is a constraint. So the answer to 6 is blue, green dashed lines and the padlock, C. So it's B and C. So that's D actually. Okay, so 6 is D. 7 is to change a wall's orientation. The user can use which of the following actions. We talked a little bit about this. Control arrows. Actually, somebody had a little diagram, so that's true. So A is definitely one way of doing that. And if you look down here, let's see. I better read the other ones too. Change the location line, parameter, and element properties dialog box. That alone should tell you that ain't the answer. That's pretty complicated there. Click on flip command on options bar. That doesn't exist. So when I look up here and there's nothing on the options bar. But D is select the change wall orientation from the right mouse button dialog box. I know we talked about this. So if I even in 3D, if I went here and I do a right button click, you get change walls orientation right here. So I can flip the wall that way as well. That one's probably more useful when you're in a 3D view, right? If you're in a 3D view and you do a right button click, you can flip it. Whoop. See the brick been on the other side. So the answer to that one is E for 7. Next one, 8. Which file extensions represent some file types used by Revit? Somebody tell me what that is. Did I hear D? Okay, D. Right, RTE. The others, I'm going to kind of weed through some of these others. The curves that I threw you here, but they're not really curves because they're not complete. For example, there is a real file type called ADSK. That's the Autodesk Exchange file that you can use. The RTU doesn't represent any type file. The only other file that you see in the list of files here that might be, you might see that they, what happens, they started using these and then they abandoned them, is a RVG, and that's a Revit group. And we'll talk about groups at some point. You actually can group things together and create something like a block, like you have in AutoCAD, a bunch of objects together. So that's a RVG, but they've discontinued that. Most of the time, anything that's going to be a group is going to be a RVT, or it's basically just going to be a RVT. So, all right. So the answer to 8 is D. 9 provides initial conditions for a project. Conditions like loaded families, settings. So that is actually a description of a template, which one is a template? A Revit project template? Which file type? RTE. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So that's RTE. So that's B. And 9 is B. 10. 10 is identify which applies. Remember we did the wall exercise? And what's being described here, a single line, chain of connected lines, or loop, a closed loop that can generate a form. For example, is that yours? Yep. Okay. For example, horizontal siding, a roll-lock or soldier course, or any of the other things we're using. And that one is that is RFA. So some people got half points there. What happened is that's a profile. That's a RFA, and it's also a profile. So the actual answer to that is D.
So it's a Revit family?
It's a Revit family, and it's also a profile. Right? That's a two-dimensional drawing showing how something is going to be extruded. Okay? Number 11, the structural part of a compound wall or other host element. Most people got this, I believe. Core. D. We talked about a core. A typical floor plan view should describe a horizontal section cut at the height above the floor, and the height or cut plane is set by what in Revit? What's that?
D.
It is D, yes, 4 feet and view range. Okay, the next one, a user place control that provides a quick way to allow or prevent changes to an element's position. After place, you cannot move it, delete, or the element until you click it once again, and that's pin, right? We're pinning those reference planes, right? Okay, the next one. When dimensioning is temporary, witness lines can be cycled through all the location lines by there's actually two things here. It's D. Did somebody say D? I heard somebody. I couldn't. It is D, and that's the blue line, right? Everybody remember the blue line? So I have a temporary dimension here. So here's the location line. Actually, I'm going the wrong direction. So if I did that, right now this dimension center of wall is the center line of wall, right? So I can cycle this through the different the different location lines by just clicking on that blue line. The other way of changing that is go to Manage and to go to Additional Settings and go to Temporary Dimensions and change that to whatever. You can change it to Center of Core. You can change it to Face of Core.
Can you say the steps again? That one.
Okay, it is by by going to changing temporary preferences in additional settings. And I didn't say which tab.
Right, so you go to manage.
So you go to Manage, go to Additional Settings. You go down to Temporary Dimensions here. You click on Temporary Dimensions, and it gives you those temporary dimensions you see. The control walls you can change here. And then the ones that control windows and doors you can do here.
And that does it for the whole project from that point on.
Yes, does it for this project for this time on. Alright, and the very last one. A reflected ceiling plan is which of the following? This one may have been a little.
Equity.
It's actually all those things. So a ceiling plan, right? Is found on the project browser, right here. A view of the ceiling as it, and this is kind of a definition of what a reflected ceiling plan is, right? So it's a view of as if you had a mirror on the floor looking up at the ceiling. A view that shows lighting, ceiling fixtures, diffusers, and penetrations. So if it's looking up, looking at the ceiling, you're going to be able to see all those things. And it happens to be part of the residential template, right? Because it's here on the residential template. So it's actually E, all of the above. Okay, like I said, we'll have, I think we have 5 quizzes, so there'll be a couple of quizzes that are going to be worth more than 100, so, we'll get past this. All right, so, roof exercise or assignment. Any questions?
Can you go through the mansard?
Okay, let's see what Claudia wants too. What do you need?
Can you teach us how to do a dormer?
Okay, yes. All right, so the dormer and the mansard. Now, meanwhile, I'll even show you the other. So I think I actually have that file open. File here. So I'm going to open project.
What about the shed? His gable.
Bear with me for a second here. I am. Uh-oh. Okay, I have that. I did not want to open it. It was on my flash drive. I did not want to open it from my flash drive. I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest you don't do that. So now it's on my desktop. So I pick it up. Okay, this is where I left off. Alright, so Steve's asking about the mansard. And Claudia's asking about... I'm sorry? I mean Andrea. I'm sorry. What was your question again? About the dormer, yes. All right. So The mansard. Okay, so let me clean this up. B. I don't know what I must have saved this later. All right. So everybody's putting these on separate sheets. When you go to the mansard, it looks like this. It's the plan view, right? And so mansards are basically two hip roofs. The first hip roof is a very steep hip roof. And there's usually a allowance for a story or a room, so we're going to use 7'6" for that. And so I'm going to go and use go architecture, go to roof by footprint, and I'm going to pick a roof. No generic roofs here. Roof rafters 8 inches, right? And then I'm going to set an overhang of 1 foot. And then I'm going to just use the wall tool, right? Sketch tool, wall tool. And I'm going to just place my sketch in plan. All right. So when I click on the different lines of the sketch, make sure your slopes are all on the outside. It probably will work if one's inside, but later on it could be a problem. So you just want to make sure they're all on the outside. I'm going to set this for 50. Alright, so I set that for 50. That means I've got a slope of 50 and 12. So for every 12 inches up, for every 12, I'm confused. Well, so 50, this is 50, right? And this is 12, sorry. All right, so I'm going to click on this and say yes. So in the interim, we had I set the view range. Whoops, wrong view. View range. I set the view range for a very high view range. Most of the time, you can set that for 27 feet, something like that. And then we have to reset the view range because this is not a roof plan is not a floor plan is the answer I'm looking for, right? So floor plan is a horizontal section cut at 4 feet, right? So so I set this for 50, and so if you want to look at it in 3D, it looks like that. It's terrible. It looks awful, right? Unless you mean it to look that way, then it's beautiful. All right, then you go back here. And so I'm cutting a section through here. I go to the section. And then I'm going to set this down. So I'm going to cut it off. So I create a roof 1, B1, at 7'6", right? And I pick the roof. And I change the, one of the properties on the roof is cutoff. See this cutoff level? None. I'm going to change that to cut off the roof B1. And then I'm going to go cut off, offset, and I'm going to, because of this extra, because of, the fact it's cutting it here, and the slope is so steep, it creates this piece here. And I'm going to just, I happen to know that's 3 feet, so we're going to just say minus 3 feet. Yeah, you would measure it. Like I did last time. It was 2'11" and some change close to another inch. So I just said 3 feet. So right here is what I've got, and when you want to look at it in 3D, it looks like that, like this little thing right here. The other thing I showed you was that I took the roof. And the fascia is 2 feet. It's pretty intense fascia, so I want to reduce the fascia. So I go to rafter cut under construction here, and I'm going to change that to 2 cut ply, and I'm going to make that 7.5. so it's a little more sleek. All right.
Can you go back to what you just did?
To what?
Fascia. What you did to the fascia.
Oh, what I did to the fascia? Okay, so when I touch this, I'm gonna undo it. All right. So right now, because it's so steep, the fascia is steep, right? This cut, this is a plain old, what do they call it? A plumb cut, right? This is just a plain old plumb cut. And so, if you go under here, under construction, you can actually control how that roof seats. And so, if I go here to two cut plumb, so it's looking to make two cuts. Now, by default, it just cuts the bottom off. But if I put a dimension in it here, it will make the fascia that dimension. So I say 7.5. It makes it like that. So you see how the shape is now? It's basically a square. All right. So that's the fascia. And so now I'm going to go back here and I'm going to put the hip roof that's on top of this. I go roof by footprint. I'm going to go to pick lines, no overhang. I'm going to actually touch the edge. So let's look at this in section here. I'm going to back it up a little bit. So my roof, I want my roof to be right here. So I'm going to be looking for that. I see an extra line. I think that's that line right there. So you know to touch the outer line right there. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go to roof by footprint, pick line tool, and no overhang. And I'm going to actually just touch the outer line here. These are all the defaults of 9 and 12. I'm curious why they picked 9 and 12. So I'm going to pick all these. Notice the slopes are all on the inside, so I'm not going to be alarmed about that.
Would you rather have them on the outside?
No, I just want them all on the same side. And in fact, it may not really matter if they're on opposite sides. It may work just fine. But I found that later on, sometimes you have problems and you can't figure out what they are with walls meeting the roof and stuff like that. So just little minor things like that. Sometimes it's good to have it consistent. So I'm going to touch all these and I'm going to change them to 4 and 12 slope. And I'm going to finish the sketch. And I forgot one thing. What did I forget to do? So when I look at this is way down here at the B level. I'm going to move it up to the B1 level. It goes up here, and it actually sits on the level, so I'm going to move it down. So I could either put in an offset. If I pick the roof, I could actually put in an offset for that. Right here, I could say minus whatever this is, or guess what? I can just move it. That's what I prefer to do, just move it. And so there's my roof. So that's roof B. So that's this roof here. What do you think? Okay, nobody's impressed. I don't blame you. All right, so but anyway, that's mansard.
Can you do one thing? Can you place it on a sheet?
Yes, I can. I've got a sheet here. I got a B, right here. And so I'm going to put the mansard plan on here. I'm actually, let me get the sheet, B. I'm going to just drag the plan on here and place it here. It's at a 1/4 inch, and maybe that's not the right scale. So I started showing you how you could actually edit this while it's on the sheet. If you're using AutoCAD, you know about viewports, and you know you can make modifications model space while you're in paper space, and that's what this is like. So you just say activate view, and it gives you the view control bar for that particular view, and you can just change the scale right on the fly. So I'm going to make mine 3/16. And if there's something I don't want to see, like this elevation tag, maybe I don't want to see this elevation tag. So I'm going to pick that, I'm going to hide it. So I did a right button click, hide element, and it's gone. And then when I want to get back to the viewport, I say deactivate the view. I'm sorry? Oh, they will print, yes. If they're empty, you probably don't want to see them, right? So I could have also cropped it by moving the crop region, right? So if I activate this view and I turn on the crop region and I go take this and I pull this down, then I cropped it out as well. So that's more than one way of doing that, right? Now I'm going to just deactivate the view. To move the object, you can just move the viewport. You just move the viewport. And notice when you're in the process of moving the viewport, you have an option of making this line smaller. You can make this line smaller by pulling it in. The other thing about this line is if I click on the viewport, it actually shows you the parameters of this particular viewport, and it calls it a viewport, just like you know in AutoCAD. And if I say edit, one thing I can do is I can actually change the line weight of this line. So this is a type. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to the edge of this line weight, and I'm going to make it heavier. Guys, don't get carried away with this. These are different line weights in Revit. They actually are based upon the thickness of the line in inches. So I think the maximum is 16, and that's as much as a ½ inch. So if I did that, it's not really a line. Look at that. So I wouldn't want that. That's absurd. Unless you're Jan. Were you on your phone, Jan? Oh, okay. Okay. So you get a little thicker line, and so you can adjust things in Revit. So now I can put on the 3D view. So I obviously have some work in the 3D view, right? So if I go back, I'm going to go back to the 3D view here. And I'm going to hide these objects, so to hide them. And I think somebody asked about this, right? Alright, so if I window these, and not what I want to hide, not what I want to keep. So I select everything that I want to hide. And do a right button click and say hide in view elements. And then they all go. Now, when I create new objects or elements, they're going to show up in this 3D view. The other thing I'm looking for you to do is keep this a consistent angle. So this is a nice arrangement. So if I want this angle, I want all mine to be all the 3D views of my different roofs to be at the same angle. I'm going to set this for this block down here. Set this save orientation lock view, so I won't be able to move it. And then you can unlock it if you have to move it. Another way of doing this is to just go ahead and say save view, and it will be your home view. So you just say go home, and it will always go back to that angle. I could still change it to a different angle. I could still orbit. I could do it that way. I could orbit it, right? And let's say I do this, and I say, "Oh, that's not all that great." So I go back here, and I say, "Go home." And it goes. Yeah, it's outside of the crop. You can move the crop around, so.
And then if you want to
So,
Did you duplicate, save, and rename it?
oh no, it's already got the roof B, right? The next exercise I give you, you're going to start naming your own stuff. But it's already on the sheet, or I just drag it down the browser. I could just drag this down to the browser to the sheet, but it's already on the sheet, so I don't have to. So it's
Oh, okay.
right. It's already on the sheet.
So on the browser, you could just drop it.
Yeah, you could
don't
just
have to drop it into the.
you don't have to drop it on the sheet. You can, but you can also just take the view and just drag it down to the sheet at the bottom of the browser. And then what will happen is when you get there and you let go of the mouse, it will open to that page and it will drop on the sheet. Yeah, couldn't have it any easier, I tell you. So like this title and that title aren't the same, and I want them to be the same. I'm gonna take this. I just pick the line, and I'm gonna move this over until I see the alignment line. If I want to change the length of the line, I have to pick the viewport. So those are the two things that are kind of confusing about how to manipulate these views. And I move that over until I see the alignment line, so they're lined up. No more guidelines, all that stuff. When you're drawing by hand, you'd have to have a guideline for that, but you don't have to do it here. So my suggestion is make this the feature, the main thing. Maybe make those smaller, make this bigger, and then put an elevation view on here. Dormer. Okay. Let's talk Dormer. Everybody ready? Everybody awake? All right, so it's this one, F. This is going to be the one we're going to use for Dormer. So it's a gable 12 and 12 slope, right? So I'm going to turn on the crop, and then I'm going to turn it on so you can see the crop, and then I'm going to crop everything out but my F roof. That's sort of like F Troop. I know nobody watched F Troop in this class. Started out in black and white. I think it switched over to color. All right, so I pull that up, and then I'm gonna hide that. Oh, look at that! Notice my elevation tag still showing. So I have no idea why that one's showing. That's why it's showing. See, this elevation is like still part of the view, and so the tag won't hide. So here's a case where you might the easiest thing is to hide it. You don't have to, but otherwise I'd have to get rid of the projection there. But there. All right. So this is a 12 and 12 slope gable roof, right? Yes. All right. So I'm gonna go roof by footprint. I'm gonna give it a 1'4" overhang, just because I like that. And I'm gonna touch I'm gonna use the wall tool. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna do these two sides as well. Now, what's different about a gable? Right, it only has slope on two sides, right? So I'm going to make these my gable ends, what they call a gable end. So I'm going to touch that line, control button, touch that line, and I'm going to turn off the slope. Two ways to turning the slope off. You cannot put a 0 on here, it won't work. I've had people do that. The one way is on the options bar. You uncheck the box that says define slopes right here. All right, notice the slope's gone now. The other way is to pick them and do a right button click. And in the right button click, a right hand dialog box, I see toggle slope defining up here. You just click on that, and it's the same thing as checking the box off. So two ways. This way with the check box. This way here, and it's actually a third. I never use it, so it doesn't do any. I don't think you would either. So we won't do that. But Here it is. So we got a slope here and a slope here, and these are 12 and 12 slopes, right? Nice, good slope. 12, 12, and 12. And then I say finish my sketch. And it says highlight walls to the roof. Attach. So I'm going to attach the walls to the roof. And I don't see the ridge. So why don't I see the ridge? This is not a roof plan. So I'm going to change the view range. And I don't need the 50 like I did with the mansard, but I'm going to make this 20. And this one 27. And say apply, and there we go. All right, now we're ready. Oh, just to make life easy, I'm going to, which is not fair, I'm going to put a reference plane down the middle here. So I'm going to say reference plane, and everybody knows their snaps. Midpoint is usually a little, a triangle. So I'm going to pick that. Make sure that's 90 degrees. So right smack down the middle, I have this work plane. All right, and I'm gonna call it middle. How creative can I be? All right. The other thing I'll need is the elevation view, because actually I'm gonna show you how to do a roof by extrusion, which I was expecting to get a question about. Let's see. So I'm going to go to one of the elevations here. I don't know which elevation it is. I don't have an elevation tag, so I'm going to create an elevation. So I'm going to say view, elevation, elevation right here. So it's under the view tab, elevation, elevation. So the view tab basically controls what kind of views that you're generating. So I'm going to just place this view here. It's usually pretty automatic. It'll flip or change its orientation. I don't know why it's forced that way. But I'm going to place it there, and I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to type in 90 because it's acting crazy. All right, I'm going to crop it so I can see it. All right, then I'm going to click on it. Okay. When I created the elevation, it actually has a range to it. That blue line that you see when you click on the little triangle here, that controls the projection of that elevation. So I'm going to pull that back here, and the depth of that elevation. So I'm going to pull this all the way up to here. And now I'll be able to see it. So if that happens to you, that's the problem. All right, now we're ready. Now we're ready to do some real work. All right. So now we're going to create a gable type dormer on the front here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a roof by extrusion. Roof. So remember there's this type, roof by footprint, roof by extrusion. I'll pick that. And it asks for a plane. So I'm going to actually just pick the plane of the house. All right, that is so that it knows where to start the extrusion. All right, everybody knows the extrusion. If I draw something, it's going to make it. It's going to extrude it. What's that? No, but we've kind of talked what extrusion is, but this is roof by extrusion, which I didn't go over. I kind of expected you to ask me about it. Okay, so this one is going to be, I'm going to set a profile of the roof. Instead of doing it in plan, I'm going to do it in elevation. Right? So I'm going to draw this now by lines. And so what I'm going to do is draw this side like that. This side like that. Something wrong with that. I'm saying it that way. That's too high. I'm gonna pick some arbitrary distance. I'm gonna pick 8 feet right here, and I'm gonna go up at 45 degrees. I'm gonna make it small. I was gonna make it big, and I'm gonna pull this down to the fascia after I get rid of that dimension. All right, I'm pull that down, and then because I'm a lazy man, I'm gonna make sure the roof type is roof rafter 8, and I've got this side right, and I'm a lazy guy, like Jan is. Oh, Jan's not here. Can't talk about him. He's not here. I'm gonna mirror this. So one of the commands here on the modified tabs is the mirror command, which is this right here. Right? There's 2 of them right here. Use the one to the left, which allows you to pick your axis of mirror. Right? Everybody kind of familiar with mirror as it relates to AutoCAD? So I'm going to pick that. And I'm going to pick the work plane, and it's going to flip, and I'm going to have a copy of it on the same side. That way I've only got to do this once. When you're doing something more complicated, it's definitely to your advantage to mirror something, okay? So now I'm going to just go ahead and finish this. And we're going to look at it in 3D. Looks unimpressive, doesn't it? So that is F. I haven't created a F view here, so I'm going to go, I'm going to duplicate this one. And we're going to rename it F. So you're going to have to do this for stuff that's not here, right? Okay, that's this roof right here. So all the other roofs I'm going to turn off eventually, right? I'm sorry? Yes. So the extrusion, you see how long the extrusion is? And you can actually control how long it does. But, hide. So when I click on it, you can actually pull it out. Like that. And you can actually take this in and pull it all the way. And you're going to have to. You're going to have to take this, pull it all the way to about right there. And then you're going to hide all the other gooply-gop. Gooply-gop. That's a technical term. Hide elements. Hide. Oh, what did I hide? Did I hide my... Did I get overzealous? I got overzealous. So I unhide this. Shame on me. And then I'm going to hide this, this, and this. Alright. I'm now going to go to Modify tab. Alright, now you have to listen very carefully, because they make this very small now. So if you come over here under Geometry, there's a little tool right here called Join Unjoin Roof. See that? See that? So you pick that tool, you pick the edge of the roof, and you pick the plane of the roof, and it will join with the roof. Everybody see that? Alright, I'll do it one more time, because it's fun. Well, at least I thought I was going to do it one more time. There's actually an unjoined roof too. Just back up. Alright, so what you got to have is you have to have the roof in this, like a sliver like this. And there's a part here I'm going to show you later it's a little tricky. There's ways of getting around it, but I'm going to go here to this roof join unjoin roof tool right here. It's on it's on Geometry on the same in the same panel with all these other wonderful tools like wall, paint, split face, all these. So, but it's right up here, and it says join roof. So you touch this to the plane of the roof, and it just runs in the roof. All right. If for some reason the profile that you've drawn is not completely aligned with the roof or is off somewhat, you may get an error message telling you about it. Right. So just you got to make sure that your profile is good. So I'm going to go back here to the route plan, and I want that to be close. I really want this line to be close as I can to this line. And this is the bug right here. I'm going to tell you about this. You cannot bring this line to this line. It will explode like that. So what you have to do is you have to be, in theory, you have to be out some little distance from that. Oops. Wow. You're fussing about that.
What if I want it to be shorter?
All right, I'm going to do this again, and then we're going to rejoin it. Somebody asked something. Was it you, Andrea?
Yeah, what if I want it to be shorter? Like, the doorman is completely inside of the roof.
Say that for me one more time.
What if I want the dormer to be completely inside of the roof? No, overhang a little bit.
I still can't hear you. Could you hear? I couldn't hear her either. All right, can you stand up? I hate to make this.
I heard. She was asking about the, was it
What if I want that the dormer is completely inside of the roof?
Oh,
That is not overhanging. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Let's concentrate on this first. But I know what you mean. So I'm gonna move this. Or better yet, I'm just gonna slide it. All right. And I may have something slightly off keel or something, and that's why it's not behaving, and that's why I was warned you about that. Let's see. I'm gonna go to roof. Go ahead and save this. Oh, I opened a backup. Shame on me. All right. Pick that. Pick that and that. All right, so I've got this little notch right here. That's a little quirky thing with Revit. If you don't want that, there's another way of doing it, and I'll show you how to do that as well. This is all I need for now. So I'm going to go to Roof F, and I'm going to make this wireframe. All right, so you see all the lines here, right? And so now I'm going to edit the footprint. So I'm going to cut out that little area where the roof meets. So I'm going to say edit footprint. I'm going to pick lines, and I'm going to pick the inside line or the outside line. I'm going to pick the outside line. And I'm going to split this, trim it out, so I have a little V notch in my main roof. And then I am going to pick this and turn off the slope. And then I'm going to take this out of wireframe. This only that's the only time I really like using wireframe, right? So I've got something like this. And then I'm going to touch the wall and say attach and touch the dormer. What Andrea's asking is there actually dormers that sit on the roof. You're asking about the dormers that actually sit on the roof, right? Let's do the other side that way. So I'm gonna you do elevation of that. I'm eating the time now. You guys, want okay, so I'm gonna go view, view, elevation. I'm gonna put my new elevation here. Make sure it's covering the projecting the whole thing. This right here, if I were to look at the elevation, would not include the ridge. So I want to pull that out. So I do that. Now, I'm going to create this dormer, but there won't be a wall. And I just kind of like this exercise to be kind of simple. But if I go here and I do roof by extrusion, and I need to pick a plane, I'm still going to pick this plane. And we're going to make it 130 like that. And we're going to mirror it on the other side. So in 3D, when I finish this, it's going to be like that. So you just pull this out, take the join roof tool, touch this surface, this edge to this surface. It'll join like that. I can pull this back. Anytime you move it, I guess they've kind of changed the way it works a little bit, because used to be able to pull it back and move it around a little bit more than it's. I don't see why it's behaving this way. Alright, so take this, touch this edge, touch this, and you would have a dormer that looks something like that. Now with this, that's over here, you're going to have a wall now, right? So I'm going to use the reference plane. And we'll put a wall right here. And then I'm just going to simply draw a wall here. Let's say this wall is an architectural wall, and it is a CMU wall, and it's this wall right here. And Andrea's special. Alright, so if I go here to F, and you're going to do the sides, and this is what's going to cost us some grief a little later, right? And then you touch this, and you say touch the roof. I could have put...
Yeah, can you go back and show me the little trick?
What's that?
You just did a trick to drop it.
To drop the wall?
Yeah.
I just draw the wall. I just drew the wall. I just put a reference plane here, and I drew the wall.
No, but after that you went into...
Okay, then I went to 3D, and I probably should have put some side walls in here as well. And then I went here to modify. I went to join roof, and I'm gonna touch. Yeah, come on, don't stick up on me. All right, join roof. Yep, not join roof. Attach roof. I must be asleep. Attach roof, and so I attach it to there. And also, you can attach the bottom of the wall to the roof as well. You could say attach base, and then touch the roof. And then that wall will end at the roof.
You got that under modify?
You touch the wall. You activate it by touching the wall. It creates a contextual tab, and then on the contextual tab you say attach, and then one of the options is top or base, and you pick that. All right. Questions? I'm going to let you take a quick break, and then I'm going to come around real quick and make sure everybody's coming along.
So this is gonna be
Yeah, I'm getting ready to do that. What? Yes.
This is gonna be due next class.
I'm sorry.
All of these rules are due next class. All of these rules are due next class.
Next class. Did I say beginning or end?
You said Thursday. You changed your mind. You gave us an extra class to get this.
No. You can't pull that one. I know it's Tuesday, but I can't remember if it was beginning or end of class. I probably have it at beginning of class, right?
You didn't declare it.
Yeah, I did. Okay, let me see. All right, we can do end of class. And then I have, because I haven't showed you the house. It says beginning of class.
Oh, Thursday, right?
See, Tuesday.
Oh. I mean, we'll do Tuesday.
Just because I act confused half the time doesn't mean that you're going to get over with that. All right. So Thursday we'll talk about the roof on the house. Okay, whether it's going to be due Thursday or not. But let's change this to end of class. All right. All right. Try to finish as much as possible. I'm going to stop the